think of the great pharaohs of Egypt, what comes to mind? Towering pyramids, golden masks, and rulers seen as living gods, right? We picture figures like Tutankhamun, Ramesses the Great, or Cleopatra. But what if I told you about a pharaoh who wasn't just a symbolic leader, but a true warrior king who fought and died on the front lines for his kingdom? This is the story of a pharaoh you've probably never heard of, a king whose skeleton tells a tale of brutal combat and ultimate sacrifice. This is the story of Senebkai, the forgotten warrior king of Abydos. Our story begins not in the grand valley of the kings, but in a dusty, ancient site called Abydos. For millennia, Abydos was one of the most sacred places in all of Egypt, a pilgrimage site dedicated to the god Osiris, lord of the afterlife. Kings and commoners alike wanted to be buried here, close to their god. But over the centuries, many of its tombs were looted and forgotten, lost beneath the shifting sands. It was here, in 2014, that a team of archaeologists from the University of Pennsylvania made a discovery that would rewrite a forgotten chapter of Egyptian history. They were excavating a series of previously unknown tombs when they stumbled upon something extraordinary. It was a modest, four-chambered tomb, heavily damaged by ancient tomb robbers. Inside, the scene was chaotic. The pharaoh's sarcophagus was broken, his mummy torn apart, and his burial goods scattered. But amidst the destruction, the archaeologists found fragments of a name. After painstaking work, they pieced it together. The king of Upper and Lower Egypt, Wozuriber, the son of Senebkai, a new pharaoh, had just stepped out of the shadows of history. Who was this Senebkai? He lived during a turbulent period known as the Second Intermediate Period. Around 1650 BC, Egypt was fractured. The powerful central government had collapsed. In the north, a group of foreign rulers from the Near East, known as the Hyksos, had seized control of the Nile Delta and ruled from their capital, Avaris. In the south, the once mighty Egyptian kingdom was reduced to a smaller state centered around Thebes. Senebkai wasn't a ruler of either of these major powers. Instead, he was part of a local, independent line of kings ruling from Abydos, caught right in the middle of this epic power struggle. This Abydos Dynasty was a little-known kingdom, a pocket of resistance trying to survive between two giants. The archaeologists carefully collected every bone from Senebkai's ravaged tomb. As they began to reassemble his skeleton, the real story began to emerge. This wasn't just a king, this was a warrior. The analysis, led by Dr. Joseph Wegner, revealed that Senebkai was a man between 35 and 40 years old when he died. He was tall for his time, about 5 feet 10, and his skeleton showed he was well muscled, with bones developed from years of physical activity, especially horseback riding. This was a man of action, but it was the injuries on his skeleton that were truly shocking. Senebkai's body was a roadmap of violence. He had sustained a staggering 18 wounds, all inflicted shortly before his death. These weren't post-mortem damages from tomb robbers. These were battle injuries. The patterns told a grisly story. Wounds to his feet, ankles, and lower back suggested he was attacked from below, perhaps while he was on horseback or a chariot, and his attackers were on foot. Then came the devastating blows to his head. His skull showed multiple, massive cuts inflicted by axes. There were at least 3 major impacts. One sliced across his forehead, another hit his cheek, and a third, massive blow crushed the back of his skull. The shape and size of these wounds were a perfect match for a specific type of weapon used during that era, the distinctive duck-bill battle axe, a weapon commonly associated with the Hyksos warriors. The evidence was overwhelming. Senebkai had been in a fierce battle, was likely pulled from his horse, and was then surrounded and brutally killed on the battlefield. This discovery completely changes our perception of what a pharaoh was. We often see them in reliefs, smiting their enemies in a stylized, symbolic way. It's often propaganda, showing the king as the all-powerful conqueror. He wasn't in a palace sending his generals to war. He was on the front line, leading his men himself. He was fighting and dying for the independence of his small kingdom against the powerful Hyksos invaders from the north. Why was he fighting? His kingdom in Abydos was sandwiched between the Hyksos in the north and the Theban kingdom in the south. It was a precarious position. It's likely Senebkai was leading a military campaign, perhaps pushing north into Hyksos territory or defending his own borders from an invasion. Whatever the specific battle, he paid the ultimate price. His death in combat highlights the desperate and violent reality of this fractured period in Egyptian history. Local kings like Senebkai were fighting tooth and nail to maintain Egyptian rule and identity in the face of foreign domination. After his death, his men would have recovered his body from the battlefield and brought it back to Abydos for burial. The fact that he received a royal burial, even in a relatively modest tomb, shows the respect he commanded. His people honored him as their king, even in defeat. Unfortunately, his dynasty didn't last long. The pressure from their powerful neighbors was too great, and the Abydos Dynasty eventually faded from history, its kings forgotten until now. Senebkai's story is a crucial piece of the puzzle. It reminds us that history isn't just about the winners, the great empires, and the golden pharaohs. It's also about the forgotten heroes, the underdogs who fought bravely for their homes and their freedom. Senebkai may have ruled a small, short-lived kingdom, and he may have died a violent death on a lost battlefield, but his legacy is profound. He stands as a rare, tangible example of a king who is also a soldier, a pharaoh who led from the front and gave his life for his people. He wasn't just a god on a throne, he was a warrior on the front line, a true patriot of ancient Egypt. His skeleton, marked by the brutal reality of war, tells a more powerful story than any golden treasure ever could. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time to uncover the story of the warrior king Senebkai. If you found this as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next historical adventure. Let me know in the comments what you think about Senebkai's incredible story. See you next time.